You don't lose control because life is hard. That is the lie you repeat to protect a fragile identity. The truth is sharper. You lose control because your identity was built on approval, not discipline. Every time someone challenges you, your mind begins negotiating. It searches for defense, justification, reaction. And in that negotiation, you always lose. Not because you are weak in ability, but because you are weak in structure. Your emotions are not random. They are trained responses, a system inside you that reacts faster than your conscious mind can intervene. A single word, a single look, a single tone, and your entire state shifts. You call it personality. It is not personality. It is programming, and you never chose it. There is a system that ends this completely, not through motivation, not through control techniques, but through replacement. An ancient Japanese system built for warriors who could not afford emotional instability, a system where the mind does not move, regardless of insult, pressure, or threat. This is not calmness. This is immovability. This is Fudoshin. But there is a cost. This system does not improve who you are. It destroys the version of you that reacts. It removes your need for validation. It strips away your emotional dependencies. It replaces identity with discipline. And most people cannot survive that transition. Because once you see the truth, that your reactions are not you, you face a decision. Continue negotiating with emotion, or erase the part of you that does. If you are done being controlled by your emotions, then act with intent, not hesitation. Subscribe now, because what follows is not entertainment, it is reconstruction. Like this video so it reaches others who are still trapped in reaction, still negotiating with impulses they pretend to control. And now, make it public. Go to the comments and write your declaration clearly. I control my reactions. I don't negotiate with emotion. Not as motivation, as a contract. Once written, it exists outside your mind. Once seen, it becomes a standard you cannot quietly abandon. Because discipline begins the moment you remove your ability to hide from your own words. And from this point forward, every reaction you have will either prove your statement or expose you. Takumi Saito lived the kind of life that disappears in a crowd. A mid-level corporate employee in Tokyo, dressed in quiet colors, moving through routines that required no attention and earned none in return. He arrived on time, left on time, spoke when spoken to. On the surface, nothing about him demanded correction. But nothing about him commanded respect either. Inside, however, there was constant movement. A restless system reacting to everything. A raised eyebrow from a colleague would linger in his mind long after the moment passed. A delayed reply to his email felt like silent judgment. A casual correction from his manager would echo for hours, replaying itself in sharper, more aggressive versions each time. You recognize this pattern. The mind scanning for threat, even where none exists, the brain interpreting neutrality as rejection. Modern research calls it status threat, an automatic response system designed to protect social position. But Takumi did not understand it as a system. He believed it was who he was. At work, the pattern became visible. His manager would lean slightly forward, voice calm, and say, "You might want to adjust this section." A simple sentence. Neutral, corrective. Takumi would nod. Understood. But inside, something surged. His jaw tightened. His shoulders rose slightly, then forced themselves down. By the time he returned to his desk, the internal negotiation had already begun. Why did he say it like that? He thinks I'm incompetent. I should have defended my decision. Minutes later, the reaction would shift again. No. I overreacted. I should stay quiet. but staying quiet makes me look weak. This was not thinking. This was oscillation, reaction layered on reaction, with no stable center. At home, the same instability existed in silence. His phone would rest face down on the table while his partner spoke about her day. He listened, but not fully. His mind drifted back to work, replaying interactions, rewriting conversations, constructing alternate versions where he responded with authority instead of hesitation. She noticed. "You're not here," she said one evening, her voice controlled but edged with distance. "I am," he replied quickly. Too quickly. "You're not," she said again, softer now. "You're always somewhere else." He looked at her, searching for the correct response. Something balanced, something calm. But the system inside him moved faster. "I had a long day," he said, defensive. "I didn't say you didn't," she replied. Silence followed. Not peaceful, not neutral, heavy. You see the pattern forming. Emotional reaction replacing presence. And defense replacing connection. Takumi did not intend to push people away, but intention does not matter when reaction controls behavior. Over time, small moments accumulate, subtle tensions compound, and slowly, without a single dramatic event, distance forms. He began noticing something else. People adjusted around him. Conversations with him became shorter. Feedback became more cautious. Not out of respect, but avoidance. They were managing his reactions. And that realization, though not fully conscious, created pressure. A silent awareness that something about him was unstable. That people did not trust his responses. But awareness alone does not create change. Without structure, it creates anxiety. So he compensated. He tried to appear calmer, spoke less, smiled more. But inside, nothing changed. The reactions were still there, only hidden. And hidden instability is more dangerous than visible instability, because now there is no feedback, no correction, only accumulation. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months. The pattern repeated with minor variations, but the structure remained identical. Trigger, reaction, regret, silence. Then came the moment that removed all illusion. It did not arrive as chaos. It arrived as something ordinary, a meeting, a room, a sentence. And in that moment, everything that had been hidden became visible. The room was ordinary. Fluorescent lights, polished table, screens glowing with presentation slides no one would remember. 8 people seated, 1 standing. Takumi. He had prepared for this. Slides refined, numbers checked twice, language softened to avoid conflict. This was supposed to be controlled, safe, predictable. When you understand this instinct, when your identity depends on approval, you design everything to avoid friction. He began speaking. Voice steady at first, controlled pacing, each sentence delivered with quiet precision. Heads nodded occasionally. No resistance, no interruption. Until it came. His manager leaned forward slightly, not aggressive, not hostile, just present. "Takumi," he said, calm, measured. "This projection, it's optimistic. Can you explain the assumption behind it?" A question, nothing more. But inside, the system activated instantly. Your chest tightens, your breath shortens, your mind begins searching, not for truth, but for defense. Takumi paused, a fraction too long. "It's based on previous trends," he replied. The manager nodded once, then again. "Previous trends don't support this number." Silence followed. Not hostile. Or just open, waiting. This is the moment most people miss. The moment before reaction becomes visible. The split second where identity feels threatened and the mind begins negotiating. Takumi felt it clearly. Heat rising behind his face, shoulders tightening, a pressure building that demanded release. You know this pressure, the urge to correct, to defend, to restore status immediately. "I think you're overlooking recent shifts," Takumi said, his tone sharper now. The room changed, subtle, but real. No one spoke. The manager's expression remained neutral. "I'm not overlooking them," he said. "I'm asking you to justify them." There it was again. Calm, direct, and Takumi lost control. Not violently, not dramatically, but enough. "You always do this," he said, voice rising just slightly above the room's threshold. "You question the direction instead of supporting it." A mistake, immediate, irreversible. You felt that moment too late, didn't you? The instant after the words leave, when awareness returns and you realize you didn't respond, you reacted. The room went still, completely still. A coworker looked down. Another shifted in their chair. The air tightened. The manager did not raise his voice. That made it worse. "This is not personal," he said. "It's your work." But Takumi's system could no longer differentiate. "It feels personal," he replied. That was the exposure. Not the words, the tone, the insecurity, the inability to separate correction from attack. In that moment, everyone understood something about him, something he had tried to hide for years. He was unstable under pressure. The meeting ended shortly after. Not abruptly, but not dramatically, but the energy had shifted beyond recovery. Takumi gathered his things with controlled movements. Too controlled. He avoided eye contact, walked out with measured steps. But inside, the collapse had already begun. Hours later, it continued. Messages slowed, conversations shortened. One colleague avoided him entirely. Another responded with delayed politeness. You see how it happens, not through confrontation, through withdrawal. Then came the confirmation. His manager called him in privately. The office door closed with a quiet finality. "Takumi," he said, voice even, "you need to separate feedback from identity. Today showed that you can't do that yet." No anger, no aggression, just assessment. "And until that changes," he continued, "your responsibilities will be adjusted." Adjusted. A controlled word for reduction. The trust lost. Position weakened. Reputation altered. Takumi nodded. He said nothing. There was nothing to say. That night, alone, the silence felt different. Not heavy, not emotional, just clear. He sat on the edge of his bed, hands resting loosely, eyes fixed on nothing. You reach this point rarely, when reaction stops, not because of control, but because there is nothing left to defend. The truth entered without resistance. He wasn't reacting to situations. He was reacting to threats that existed only in his interpretation. And worse, people could see it, not occasionally, consistently. That realization did not motivate him. It dismantled him. Because once you see that your behavior is predictable, that your reactions follow a pattern you cannot control, you lose the illusion of identity. You are no longer choosing, you are executing. And in that fracture, something else became possible. Not improvement, not correction, replacement. The days that followed were quieter, but not calmer. Takumi moved through his routine with reduced responsibilities, fewer interactions, and a presence that no longer required acknowledgement. Nothing external demanded his attention anymore, which meant everything internal became louder. You reach this phase when the world stops reacting to you, when feedback disappears, and what remains is exposure. There is no distraction left, only pattern. He began noticing the repetition more clearly, not just the reactions, but the sequence, a stimulus, a surge, a defense, a regret, always in that order, always automatic. This was not personality, it was structure. One evening, while sorting through old belongings in his apartment, he found a thin, on worn book tucked beneath a stack of unused documents. It was not something he remembered buying. A translated text, sparse, minimal, almost incomplete. On the first page, a title, Fudoshin. No explanation, no introduction, just fragments, observations, instructions without justification. He sat down and began reading, slowly, carefully. The mind must not move. That line appeared early, repeated, not as advice, but as a rule. You expect explanation, you expect reasoning. But the ancient Japanese system does not negotiate with your understanding. It states the law and leaves you to confront it. Takumi read further. Warriors trained to face insult without reaction, pressure without hesitation, threat without emotional disturbance. Not by suppressing emotion, but by removing its authority entirely. He paused, but this was not control in the way he understood it. This was elimination of the need to react. Another line, reaction is the failure of structure. You feel the weight of that sentence because it removes your excuses. It does not blame circumstances. It does not justify emotion. It defines reaction as weakness in design. Takumi closed the book briefly, letting the idea settle. His first instinct was resistance. This is unrealistic. No one can function like that. But the thought did not hold, because his current way of functioning had already failed. He opened the book again. Stillness is not silence, it is command. There was no emotional language, no encouragement, just definitions. This is how systems speak, not to comfort, but to replace. Modern neuroscience aligns with this more than you realize. Whereas emotional reactions are automated loops, triggered before conscious awareness. The brain prioritizes speed over accuracy. Once activated, the response completes itself unless interrupted at the identity level. Takumi did not know the research, but he understood the result. He had never interrupted the loop. He had only reacted to it afterward. The text offered no step-by-step method, no gradual progression, only a standard. The mind does not move. Which meant everything he had done before, managing reactions, adjusting tone, controlling expression, was irrelevant. The system did not aim to reduce reaction. It demanded its absence. You feel the resistance again. Because this removes your comfort zone, it does not allow partial effort. Takumi sat there for a long time, the book resting open in his hands. The room was silent, not heavy, not tense, just still. For the first time, his thoughts slowed, not because he forced them to, but because something more rigid had entered the space, a rule, not a suggestion, not a strategy, a rule that did not bend to his feelings. He whispered the line once, quietly. The mind must not move. It sounded simple, almost empty, but simplicity is what makes it dangerous, because there is no room to hide inside it. He did not fully understand what implementing this would require. But he recognized one thing clearly. His current identity could not coexist with this system, and that created the real problem. Because deciding to follow a system like this is not difficult. Remaining consistent when it begins to erase who you are, that is where most people collapse. Takumi closed the book. Slowly. Then he made a decision. Not out of motivation. Not out of hope. Out of absence. There was nothing left to preserve. He would test the system, completely, without negotiation. And that decision marked the beginning of something far more difficult than failure. Because the moment you stop reacting externally, everything you avoided internally begins to surface. Day one began without ceremony. No preparation, no announcement, just a decision carried into action. Takumi woke at the same time, followed the same routine, entered the same environment, but something fundamental had been removed. He would not react, not adjust, not manage, not suppress. Remove. You think this sounds simple because you misunderstand the system. You believe reaction is optional. It is not. It is automatic. And when you interrupt something automatic, the system does not become quiet. It becomes violent. At work, the first test came quickly. A colleague glanced at his screen and said, "That layout looks off." Previously, this would have triggered immediate defense, explanation, justification. Now, nothing. Takumi nodded once. No words, no shift in posture. But inside, the pressure surged. You feel it immediately. The mind demanding response, the body preparing to act, your identity searching for expression. He did nothing, and that nothing felt wrong. Unnatural, almost threatening. Day 2 intensified it. The silence created space, and in that space, every unexpressed reaction accumulated. Thoughts moved faster, louder, more aggressive. Why aren't you responding? You look weak. Say something. Fix it. You mistake reaction for strength. The system inside you equates expression with control, but it is the opposite. Takumi recognized this, but recognition did not reduce the pressure. By day 3, the internal noise reached a level that felt unsustainable. He stood in the office hallway, staring at nothing, his hands slightly tense at his sides. This is the phase most people abandon, not because the system is ineffective, but because it works too quickly. It exposes everything at once. The ancient Japanese system does not ease you into discipline. It confronts you with the full weight of your instability immediately. Week 2 brought a different kind of resistance, external. "You've gone quiet," a coworker said, leaning casually against his desk. Takumi looked up. "I'm working." The answer was flat, controlled. "What's wrong with you?" Another added later, half smiling, half probing. Nothing was wrong. That was the problem. Our social systems depend on emotional feedback. Reaction confirms identity. It maintains familiarity. When you remove it, people lose their reference point. And when people lose their reference point, they push harder. Comments became sharper, observations more frequent, subtle attempts to provoke response. Takumi absorbed it all. But absorption is not control. Not yet. Day 14 exposed that difference clearly. A small moment, almost insignificant. A colleague laughed lightly after correcting him in front of others. Not malicious, just careless. The old system activated instantly. Heat, tension, interpretation, and this time he reacted. "It's not wrong," Takumi said, his tone edged with something he could not fully suppress. The room shifted. Not dramatically, but enough. He felt it immediately. The failure. You recognize this moment. Or the break in discipline. The realization that despite effort, the system inside you is still dominant. For a second, the old pattern returned. Justify it. Minimize it. Move on. But Fudoshin does not allow that. The system reframes failure not as weakness, but as exposure. It reveals exactly where control is incomplete. Takumi did not argue, did not defend. He stopped. Silence returned. But this time, it carried awareness. Later that evening, alone, he replayed the moment. Not emotionally, mechanically. Trigger, reaction, break. The structure was clear. You expect discipline to feel empowering. It does not. Not at this stage. It feels like loss, like something is being removed without replacement. Because something is. Your identity is built on reaction. Remove reaction, and identity begins to dissolve. That is why it feels like death. But death in this system is not destruction. It is clearance. Takumi returned the next day with no adjustment to the rule, no reduction, no compromise. The mind must not move, no expectation, no timeline, no outcome, just repetition, and slowly, beneath the pressure, beneath the discomfort, beneath the constant internal resistance, something began to change. By day 30, the internal noise had changed, not disappeared but reorganized. The sharp spikes of reaction had dulled into signals, observable, slower. Takumi no longer fought every impulse. He watched it. You reach this phase when the mind begins separating from the reaction instead of merging with it. A form of awareness emerges, close to what the Japanese principle calls zanshin, continuous observation, not passive, not detached, controlled presence. A colleague interrupted him mid-task. "You missed a detail here." Takumi looked, adjusted it, nodded, no shift in expression. Inside, the impulse still appeared, but it no longer dominated. It rose, then faded. This is where most people become overconfident. They believe control has been achieved. But the real test is not internal, it is external. And the environment does not allow transformation without resistance. The change in Takumi did not go unnoticed. It disrupted expectation. "You don't react anymore," one coworker said, half curious, half suspicious. Takumi continued working. "There's nothing to react to." The answer landed differently than intended. Not defensive, not emotional, but final. And finality creates discomfort in others. Attempts to provoke him increased. Small comments, light sarcasm, subtle challenges. Not out of hostility, out of imbalance. Social systems rely on predictable emotional exchange. When one side stops responding, the system destabilizes, and instability triggers pressure. You see this in your own life. When you stop reacting, people either test you or distance themselves. Takumi experienced both. One afternoon, during a team discussion, a colleague leaned back and said, "You used to argue more, now you just agree with everything." A test. Direct. Takumi looked at him, held the gaze. No tension, no urgency. "I don't agree with everything," he said calmly. "I just don't react to everything." Silence followed. Brief, controlled. The colleague smirked slightly, then looked away. This is how pressure begins to fail. Not through confrontation, but through non-participation. But it does not stop immediately. It escalates first. Well, later that week, the same colleague pushed harder, questioned his decisions more directly, tone sharper, timing deliberate. Takumi noticed it. Of course he did. Zanshin remained active, but he did not engage the pattern. No defensive explanation, no emotional shift, just response where necessary, silence where not. You underestimate how disruptive this is. When someone cannot trigger you, they lose control over the interaction. And most people are unconsciously dependent on that control. This is where the Japanese technique of gammon becomes necessary. Endurance without complaint. Not passive suffering, but active restraint. Takumi endured. Not because he was strong, because the system required it. Harvard behavioral studies suggest that identity change often provokes external resistance before acceptance. Yet people resist what they cannot predict. Takumi did not know the study, but he lived the pattern. Days passed, then weeks, and something shifted. The comments slowed, the testing reduced, the attention moved elsewhere. Not because people approved of him, because he no longer responded in a way that rewarded the behavior. The system adapted around him. This is the moment most people misunderstand. They think discipline changes the world. It does not. It changes your participation in it. And when your participation changes, the environment reorganizes itself accordingly. Takumi was no longer the unstable variable. He became constant. But constancy introduces a new level of expectation, because once you stop reacting most of the time, the next test is whether you can stop reacting all of the time. By day 66, the system was no longer new, or the routines had settled. The silence had structure. Takumi no longer needed to remind himself constantly. The rule existed beneath thought. The mind must not move. You reach this threshold when repetition stops feeling forced, when discipline shifts from effort to default. But this is not completion. It is exposure to the final test, because systems are not proven in calm environments. They are proven under pressure. The moment arrived without warning. A senior executive entered the room during a routine review. Unscheduled, direct. His presence altered the space immediately. Conversations shortened, postures adjusted. Takumi continued working, not ignoring, not reacting. The executive stopped beside him, looked at his screen. "This analysis is incomplete," he said. No softness, no cushioning. The same structure as before. On different intensity, you recognize this setup, authority, evaluation, risk. The old system would have activated instantly, defense, explanation, emotional surge masked as logic. But now, there was space, not silence, not suppression. Space. The statement entered, registered, stopped. No internal spike followed. Takumi turned slightly, looked at the data, then at the executive. "What's missing?" he asked. Calm, direct, no tension in the voice, no urgency in the posture. The executive paused, just briefly, enough to register the absence of reaction. "The projection doesn't account for external volatility," he said. Takumi nodded once. "I'll adjust it." That was all. No justification, no defense, no attempt to restore status. The exchange ended as quickly as it began. But something irreversible had just occurred. Would you understand it when you feel it? The absence of internal movement, not controlled, not managed. Absent. The trigger appeared. The system did not activate. Fudoshin had moved from practice to structure. This is what the Japanese principle defines as an immovable mind. Not a mind that resists reaction, but one that does not generate it. Neuroscience describes this as habit automation. Repeated behavioral patterns become encoded below conscious awareness, reducing cognitive load and eliminating internal negotiation. But the explanation is unnecessary. What matters is the result. Takumi was no longer reacting, not externally, not internally. The man who once required validation to stabilize his identity now operated without it entirely. Feedback no longer threatened him, it informed him. Criticism no longer provoked defense. It passed through him without distortion. Silence no longer created anxiety. It became neutral space. This is the point where identity shifts completely. You are no longer someone who tries to control reactions. You are someone who does not produce them. Takumi noticed it later that evening, not during the event. That is how you know the change is real, when awareness comes after, not during. He sat at his desk, reviewing the adjusted work. The same environment, the same tasks. But the internal experience was different, stable, clear, undisturbed. He tested it quietly, recalled past moments, the meeting, the correction, the humiliation. No emotional surge followed, no replay, no need to reinterpret. The events existed without influence. That is control at its highest level. Not resistance, but irrelevance. And with that, a final shift began forming. Because when you remove reaction completely, you remove the last mechanism others use to influence you. And that changes not just how you respond, but how the world responds to you months passed without announcement. No visible milestone marked the change. No single event confirmed it. The transformation did not declare itself. It revealed itself through absence. Takumi Saito no longer fluctuated. His routine remained the same. Same office, same desk, same interactions. But the internal structure had stabilized completely. The variables were gone. No sudden shifts, no hidden surges, no delayed reactions waiting to surface later. You expect transformation to feel dramatic. It does not. It feels silent. His presence began to carry weight, not through authority, not through force, but through consistency. The conversations with him became precise, short, efficient. There was no emotional distortion in his responses, no unpredictability. People noticed, not immediately, but gradually. The same colleagues who once tested him stopped trying. The same voices that once pushed for reaction adjusted their tone. Not out of fear, but recognition. He could not be moved. One afternoon, a co-worker approached him again, the same one who had tested him weeks earlier. "You've changed," he said. Takumi looked at him, calm, present. "I removed something," he replied. "What?" "Reaction." The answer ended the conversation, not because it was impressive, but because it was complete. You see the difference now. He did not become stronger in the way most people imagine. He did not gain emotional control through effort. He removed the system that required control. Your Fudoshin was never about suppressing emotion. It was about eliminating its authority entirely. The ancient Japanese system does not train you to fight your impulses. It trains you to outgrow them. And once outgrown, they no longer return. Takumi's environment shifted around him, but he did not chase the shift. His role stabilized. Trust returned, not requested, not negotiated, but observed. Because reliability is not built through intention, it is built through absence of instability. You misunderstand discipline if you think it is about adding strength. It is about removing weakness so completely that nothing remains to be tested. Takumi no longer prepared for interactions. He did not anticipate reactions. He did not rehearse responses. There was no need. Nothing external could trigger what no longer existed internally. Like this is the final state. Unshakable. Not because you resist pressure, but because pressure has nothing to act on. Subscribe and enable notifications if you are ready to build this level of control without compromise. This is not inspiration. This is a system that demands execution. Now choose one reaction that has controlled you: anger, defensiveness, validation seeking, and remove it. Not reduce it. Remove it. Write it in the comments as your next step. I eliminate reaction. Make it visible. Make it irreversible. From this point forward, every situation becomes proof. Either the system is active, or you return to negotiation. There is no middle state, only discipline or exposure.